All right, what is up, everybody? We are live. Hope you're doing good here today. Going to start off with a case of road rage. Everybody talking about this. Denny Hamlin versus Richard Childress. Denny Hamlin on his podcast announced to the world that during the when they were going to the airport after the race, they had the motorcade going. Had the police escort, and apparently, Richard Childress was on the side of the road or whatever, and they left a gap there. And Richard Childress, trying to get to the airport first, just to paint the picture, everybody talks about every weekend the best race on the racetrack is the race to the airport after the race, sometimes because drivers just want to get to those airplanes, get to the airport, and be back home as soon as possible. Well, they left a gap there, and Richard Childress trying to get in there as well, trying to get in their motorcade, the 2311, I assume, or Joe Gibbs Racing motorcade. Slides his car in there, and Denny Hamlin, whoever was driving him, didn't like the fact that he left a gap and that Richard Childress filled it. So he aggressively drove over there, and once he showed his displeasure, Richard Childress doored him. So it is what it is. A lot of people have made a big deal about this, and I am going to throw a little bit of cold water on it because of this. If Denny Hamlin was really fearful for his life, there were police there that were doing the police escort. Obviously, they saw it. Denny Hamlin didn't file a police report. Denny Hamlin didn't mention who was actually driving the car he was in, but he did name drop Richard Childress. And so that's one thing, honestly, you don't do. It's just sort of something you keep between yourself. If you have an issue with it, you take it up with Richard Childress, or, if you have a real issue with it, you make a police report. Neither of which of those things were done. However, what was done was it was talked about on a podcast. And I think the reason it was talked about on a podcast is for clicks and views. And they wanted that viral moment of having that clip of Denny Hamlin talking about that. Because if you're totally honest, there were only three real stories from the race: Kyle Larson, maybe Alex Bowman versus Kyle Larson, and then Ryan Blaney blowing his engine, and then maybe the great racing that was on the track. It was a great race, naturally, that wasn't interrupted by caution. So there wasn't really anything spicy if you wanted that clickbait sort of title for your thumbnail or whatever like that when you're doing the clips from the full long show. So I think Denny Hamlin threw that in there because he wanted to get that controversy, get the traction, because he is also a competitive person, and he wants his podcast, his show on the Dale Jr. Network or Dirty Mo Media podcast lineup, I guess. I don't know how you would phrase it, but he wants his show to do the best. So I think 100%. Denny Hamlin probably didn't really have a huge issue with it. Obviously, Richard Childress has enough money to pay for the damage to the car. I don't think Denny Hamlin was ever actually scared for his life, and I don't think it was necessarily so egregious, because if it was, the people giving the motorcade the ride would have taken care of Richard Childress, because they've got enough people in that motorcade that they could have handled Richard Childress pulling him to the side. Anyway, so I don't think it was as egregious as it's being made out to be. I think it's just a lot of people trying to get a lot of traction off of it for clicks and views, which is the game. It is the game on YouTube. So it is what it is. No hate, but I think it honestly is kind of overblown, much ado about nothing at the end of the day, as far as that one goes. Speaking of James Dennis Allen Hamlin, however, he did reveal his throwback scheme for Darlington, and Joe Gibbs Racing did a great job with that, because it looks just like Carl Edwards' car, throwing back to the Office Max, I do believe, Carl Edwards' car there. So good looking scheme there. Great way to carry it out. Hendrick Motorsports also revealed a paint scheme, throwing it back to Ken Schrader, the 25 Kodiak car, and they did it with Chase Elliott. I didn't love it. It's a rare miss for Hendrick. It's not the best well done job. It's a UniFirst, and they're trying to throw it back to Kodiak, so the colors kind of match up, but just the throwback to it didn't really line up. Wasn't a huge fan of it. So I feel like that's a miss there. But the 11, the Denny Hamlin one, that one definitely a hit. Kyle Busch is going to be racing against, speaking of RCR, so we'll keep it within the RCR Denny Hamlin frame once again. Kyle Busch, RCR driver, he's going to be racing his son Brexton at Millbridge on March 26th, which will be tomorrow if you're watching this live, or if you're watching this the next day, it'll be today. But March 26th, Kyle Busch going to race him. It's going to be on Dirt Vision if you want to check it out. And Dirt Vision put out a post here. It said NASCAR Cup Series champion Kyle Busch will race against his 9-year-old son, Brexton, for the first time ever at Millbridge Speedway on Wednesday, March 26th. Every lap of it will be on Dirt Vision. The father-son duo will compete in the 600 Wing Micros division during the first Wednesday series event of the season. I finally get to race against my dad, Brexton wrote on X. He's not ready. So there you go. Let me know who you think is going to win in that particular, speaking of engagement and getting clicks, let me know who you think is going to win between the two. Will Kyle Busch take it over his son? Will the weight advantage play into Brexton's favor? Will the experience advantage in these particular cars? Brexton has more experience. Will that be an advantage to him? Do you think Brexton can get it done, or do you think Kyle Busch is going to take no prisoners and let his son know who the man is when it comes to racing cars, at least for right now? Either way, whoever wins, going to be a fun event, going to be a fun story. Kyle Busch would later go on, I think, to compare it to some other greats who have raced with each other and some other father-son duos in other sports. So he's obviously super excited about it, and it's going to be a great moment all the way around for the fans. Excuse me. Sticking with the RCR stuff, Austin Hill going to make 5 starts in the number 33. So we do have a number now. A lot of people had speculated, is Austin Hill going to make a start? If he makes starts, will it be for Colleague? Will it be for RCR? Well, we know now it's going to be for RCR. We know the number. It's going to be the number 33. We know the sponsor for these 5 races, at least. It's going to be United Rentals, and we do know the 5 races. April 6th at Darlington, he'll be racing that one. July 6th will be in Chicago. August 23rd, he'll be racing the Daytona night race. September 13th, he'll be at Bristol. And then October 19th, Dega. So you got 2 super speedways in there. You got Darlington. Chicago street course, an interesting one there. I don't really think of Austin Hill as a road course racer, but I might be missing something there. But that being said, when he signed this extension, this long-term deal with Richard Childress Racing, a lot of people were wondering, why would you sign that? You were one of the top up-and-coming prospects at the time when he signed that deal. They were expecting maybe somebody to retire from RCR. Maybe he filled their spot. Maybe RCR grabs a charter, adds another one, or maybe RCR just runs an extra car anyway, regardless of having a charter. It is RCR. They're not scared to do things outside of the box for sure, or door somebody on the freeway, allegedly. It does bring into question, is this a sign of future things to come? He has run 10 races in the last 3 seasons, so this will be an uptick in that for sure. 5 races more than he's run in the previous 2 or 3 seasons before this. So is this sort of a look into the future? Are they going to run a 3rd car? Is somebody fixing to retire? Something going to be shaken up over there? A lot of people questioning that. But at 30 years of age, he's kind of in that same frame of Josh Berry. He doesn't have necessarily the postseason championships, but he does have 2 regular season championships. He does have a Truck Series regular season championship, and he has an Xfinity Series regular season championship. Hasn't won the playoffs yet, but he is an elite caliber driver at the Truck and at the Xfinity Series level. Will that translate to Cup? When he gets the opportunity, that's, of course, the big gamble. But I would put him in that Josh Berry box where he's a veteran driver. You're bringing him in right at his prime, if that's going to be the case, if that's what happens. I think a lot of people are assuming that. I think they're just confused as to how it's going to happen. I think that's the big box that needs to be checked off as to how all this is going to play out and go down. But I do think it is a sign of things to come for RCR and Austin Hill in his future. And I think it's a positive sign that he's getting the opportunity here. And hopefully next season he will be contending somewhere for Rookie of the Year in the Cup Series, because I think he's paid his dues. And I think he's certainly a great race car driver. A lot of people don't necessarily like him because of his personality, or he drives too aggressively for their taste. But I think if you just take all that out of the picture, that stuff doesn't bother me because I was an Earnhardt fan. But if you take all that stuff out of the equation, I think at the very least you can admit that he's a very good race car driver, whether you like his style or dislike his style. I think you can say he's definitely able to get the job done. And Kyle Larson, getting off the Joe Gibbs, Denny Hamlin RCR train. Kyle Larson said he would have 50 Cup Series wins by now if they had kept the old car, if they hadn't gone to this new next gen car that we're racing now. He said he'd have 50 wins. It's unclear if he meant he'd have 50 wins driving for Hendrick or if he'd have 50 wins overall. He only got 6 wins over there at Chip Ganassi Racing with that car. Obviously, he's got 23 wins or so, or 24 wins with Hendrick Motorsports since he's been over there with them. So it's been certainly a big uptick in performance. He's at 30 right now. I'll say this: if he had been with Hendrick for his whole career, I'm on board with it. I think if you are with Hendrick for your whole career at this point, and you're Kyle Larson, you probably are at 50 or close to 50. I don't know if you'd be at 50, but certainly in that Hendrick equipment, he would have been really close to 50 by now. I do agree with that. But if he's factoring in, he'd be at Ganassi and only the last 5 seasons at Hendrick, and he would have the 50 wins there. That's a little bit of a stretch because that's an incredible win clip as far as that goes. So I like the confidence though overall. So and Kyle Larson, you either like him or you don't like him, but I do like the confidence here. Obviously, I like him, but I like the confidence here that he's like I would have 50 wins now if they hadn't changed the car. And I think in his own subtle way, it's kind of him saying I don't like this new next gen car, which I think a lot of drivers in the garage area probably would say as well. So I think it's just a subtle way of saying I don't like the current car. And also that he preferred the older car and thinks he would have a whole lot more wins with it as well. And then the final thing before we jump into the comment section and see what you guys want to talk about, Bob Pockra saying, from what he understands, there will be no more tire options at the short tracks. They're done with the tire options. They figured out all they wanted to figure out about the tire option. And that has led to some controversy because a lot of people thought that it added a whole lot to the first Phoenix race. It added a whole lot of strategy and it made that race a whole lot more interesting because you had to manage your tires and have that set of tires at the end to have the good finish. A lot of people really like that. Some people didn't, but NASCAR has apparently is among the group of people who didn't like that because they've done away with it. According to Bob Pockris, there's going to be no more tire option for the rest of the year. He says he doesn't expect to see it. So that has got people up in arms. And guess what? Smooth transition into that is the poll question. Should NASCAR keep the tire option for short tracks? Yes, 73%. No, 9% don't care. The car is the real issue. Is it 18% early on? So if you want to get your vote in on the poll question, go ahead and get that in, and I will jump into the chat and see what you guys want to talk about. Let's see. Jamie Schweitzer, what's up, my friend? Good to see you on here. Who will be the first driver? Who will be the first Cup driver to kick off silly season? Before or after the Coca-Cola 600? Oh, that's a good question. Who will be the first driver that they everybody's speculating Daniel Suarez is out. So maybe we see something over there first. I don't know. That would be a total guess. But when silly season starts, as far as NASCAR goes, now silly season starts as soon as the actual season starts. So technically, I guess it could have already started as far as we know. I don't know. Wise guy saying what's up to everybody. That's why you take the insurance. Wise guy talking about the Denny Hamlin incident with Richard Childress. And I still just for the life of me, I know he did it for clicks and views, but like typically that is stuff that you keep in the garage or, you actually file a report about it. So it was interesting that he used that particular angle to get some traction, but it is what it is. He's a grown butt man, so he can do what he wants to do. He made the call there. John P saying, I just picked up a roast history chicken, a roast history chicken from Costco for $5 to watch the stream. I was zapping Zen 9 milli lip pillows my afternoon, and the nicotine is making my head feel light. LOL. There you go. He is he's juiced up. He's ready for the episode today. He's got the whole rotisserie chicken. How he eats that is anybody's guess. So it is what it is. Always good to have John P up on the stream here. Lovey Barkley saying salutations. Salutations to you as well, Lovey. Always good to see you on the stream. I aspire to have a bank account one day that will have me not think twice about dooring my rental car, says Say Kyle. And that's probably the best take out of all of it. Don't we all wish that we had a career like Richard Childress or Denny Hamlin where we could make that call saying, you know what? I don't care. 0 F's given. I'm going to door this guy because he wanted to get cute. So, and to be fair, going back to the story, Denny Hamlin said his driver didn't like what Richard Childress did and initiated it, trying to drive up there aggressively and voice his displeasure. Then Richard Childress retaliated and gave it back to him twofold, as they would say in the good book. Chrome Diesel, hi BB, how you doing? I don't care what tires are on a Cup car. It doesn't solve the beached car issue once the tires are flat. So there you go. Chrome Diesel making his opinion clear. He doesn't like the overall car, period. So it is what it is. I think there's probably quite a few. I think that's probably going to be the two main options. I think a lot of people are going to say, yes, I want the option tire. And I think the winner, the second place person, the second place in that poll is probably going to be The car is the issue. I'm feeling like those will probably be the most popular, but that's just my hypothesis. We will see how it plays out. Get your votes in on the poll if you feel like it. If not, don't worry about it. Not a big deal. PC Gone Rogue says Denny wears a skirt. So there you go. People that don't like Denny, they're going to use this as a jumping off point to Denny, ratting somebody out or whatever you want to call it.